Yeah, I want to talk about the west side and east side when facing the Great Pyramid. So, if you see in the diagram, the west, um, if you look here to this will be my right side. So, this will be west, and this will be my east side, my left. So, when we're reading our book, we read from east to west or left to right. When you think about it, the sun rises from the right and falls on the left. It rises from the west and falls to the east. So when we read, we shouldn't be reading from left to right. We should be reading from right to left. In other words, being sync with nature. If you look at the quote unquote so-called behavior of America, they always have you read from left to right. But when you go to certain other like countries as Asia, you'll see them reading from right to left. So again, when you're looking at the Great Pyramid on this diagram and you're looking at it on a like left view, that means that it's going to be on your left hand side and you're facing it. So that means that the so-called signs that you will see would be like on this side right here, it should be Orion, and then on this side over here, it should be Drago, okay, or the Palladium system. But if you're looking at it on the right side of it, so that means you're basically on the opposite side of the pyramid, and if I were to turn 180 degrees, I would still see quote unquote Ryan on this side and Pleiades on this side. But on the diagram, you'll see Orion here and Pleiades over here. So basically, you would have to be like in a 3D view, you would have to be there in order to see exactly what I'm talking about. Um, so don't let the diagram confuse your vision. You're looking at it in a 2D vision instead of a four-dimensional version of it. You're more looking at on a second dimension. That's why they have you writing on like papers and things like that. When we were writing on stone and writing so perfectly that we didn't make a mistake. So that shows you our intelligence that we had. Why does the so-called European have an eraser? Go figure, huh? You can't erase stone unless you just break it all to pieces and you toss it and you start all over again. But I don't think that was the case when we wrote on stone. So let's go back and look at the clock. The clock goes from left to right. They call that clockwise. And the opposite of that would be right to left, which is basically counterclockwise. So if we're supposed to read right from left, that means that we would be reading counterclockwise. That means that would be synced up with nature. So if you look at your finger on the screen, it may be the opposite direction. But if you go counterclockwise in the spiral position, you'll be spiraling up. But if you do it if you do it clockwise, you'll be basically descending, going down. So remember, your clock is backwards in the sense of it being timed with nature. So that means time really doesn't exist per se. The only time they use time is when you clock in and clock out, and that's how they make their so-called dollar bill. So once again, if you look at your finger and you go counterclockwise, you can have that feeling of natural spinning going up. But when you try to do the same thing going clockwise and go up, it doesn't really feel that normal, per se. So basically counterclockwise is the way we need to start looking at certain things. The reason why this is because this so-called beast on this planet is basically teaching you backwards things instead of going forward. This is why he always talks about history. History is always going back. How come he can never explain anything about the future, what's going to happen in the future? He's always explaining to you about doom and fears and all that stuff. So when we tie ourselves into that kind of action, what are we doing? We're basically, again, we are descending because he in himself can only think backwards. So he's a backwards thinking individual. So if he can think forward, then that means that from the time that we came out of our mother's womb until the time that I'm talking to you now, per se, we shouldn't be in this type of position that we're in, dealing with food, paying bills, and all these other things. Because all we're doing is just paying back into the system and keeping the system alive. And this is what he wants. He wants that system that he's so-called is embracing. He don't want that system to crash. So what he's going to do, he's going to give you some education. And this education seems pleasing, but it's not. It's basically a disease, a dis-ease, a disease. And he's on a mission. So we got to really take heed to what's being said, from their tongues. So that way we won't be deceived, if you see what I'm saying. Yeah, let's talk about the caveman here in this part of the video. Now, some of you may think that, this nigga, which, yeah, I am a nigga, I'm a nigga, is very bitter and angry and upset of what I speak, like I don't know anything. Well, let's really sit down and have a real talk now. First of all, what is this caveman, as you can see on the diagram, looking like he's from the stars? Wait a minute. How could a caveman be written in the stars when a caveman really don't have no sense, no common sense? He's kind of like beastly. Matter of fact, he is beastly. He eats meat. He basically goes around killing everything that he puts his hands on. He disrespects nature. He doesn't really know who he is. He don't really know where he comes from. This is why he always goes out and seeks. In the same way, that's why they got Yahoo.com, if you see what I'm saying. If you ever watched that movie Gulliver, I think it's like 1993 or something like that, you'll see it on one of my posts. They call them Yahoos. So it's really no coincidence that they have a Yahoo.com, and they're going to tell you that they're Yahoos. But beyond that, why is this so-called caveman written in the stars? And then we know for a fact that the caveman in itself usually has a club, a spear, and a shield. Same thing as those Romans. A club, a spear, and a shield. Same thing even with so-called battles that we see. Why we always see these so-called shields, spears, and clubs? So where's the intelligence before they get into any form of battle? That shows you that they don't have no form of common sense. They can't even agree to agree. This is why they have disagreements and agreements. Well, when you look at the word disagree, you get the word dis, which means against, and then gree, you put a K, you got a Greek against the other Greek. They can't even get along with each other. So in the same way, even looking at our cultures as Moors and, so-called Africans to a lot of you out there, we had our downfalls. We already had paid the price. So why think like a caveman? Why be something that you're not? Why not go back to nature and see what nature has to offer you? Why keep on disrespecting nature like the caveman? Sounds like the European, don't it? Because ever since they put themselves in these so-called pages that they write, and they disregard that of what taught them how to read and write, who taught them medicines, who taught them how to play music, who taught them how to dance, and all these other things, why they keep on disregarding the teacher and always talking about the student? That lets you know what type of intelligence they have. So this is not about a slam here, and you know, this is more about an intelligent conversation between me and you who are listening in this video. So if you go ahead and complain and argue, that lets you know what you're all about. Arguing, A-R-G-U-E, argue, right? So A-R space G-U-E, A-R-E-R, and then G-U-E-S-S, our guess, or arguing is our guessing. So when you're arguing, you are guessing. So stop your damn arguing and start seeking. So that way you can stop your damn lame ass guessing. All right, now we talked about the caveman, about how he has clubs and shields. In this so-called diagram or so-called image that you'll see, we have Orion with a so-called Greek and Pleiades with the bull. So who is this so-called Greek battling the bull? So who's the bull, you may ask? And we know that the caveman has a club and shields and sometimes a spear. So basically the Orion guy is the caveman. So who is this caveman battling? Who is this bull? Let's not look at it with your two eyes, these two right here, but let's really view this and see what the so-called pineal, or your pinnacle, your pineal gland is going to be talking about here. This is your pinnacle. This is your higher self. This is where you sit on the throne, not by your lower self, which is your groin or your ass. So if you're thinking about certain things that don't make sense to you in a way, it's because you're thinking out of your ass and not thinking with your pinnacle, with your so-called pineal gland. So now, let's talk about this battle from the stars that we see here. First of all, someone is picking a fight. And the reason why they're picking a fight is because this is all they know how to do. They can't reason. They can't go out and seek. They eat meat. They avoid any form of truth that you speak to them. You tell them one thing, they think another and call you a liar. But they'll be nice to you, and nice is being a fool. But all that other stuff, you turn your back, you get this kind of like sharp pain because you got a big ass knife inside yourself. So you could take it as you want to take it. And this is not an apology, and it's not me complaining or anything like that. I'm just here to let you know the truth is the truth. You could seek it, but there's only way you can find it. And that's what's inside yourself. You see, some of this stuff ain't written in books. And that's real talk. So go ahead and check that out for yourself. And call me a liar all you want. But see, I'm not a liar because I don't live in layers. Layers, liars. Two letters changed around, A and I. Artificial intelligence. Not me. So you take care of yourself. And we can go to the next clip here, which will be part 2 of this video.